Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're just going to give it a couple of seconds for more people to join us. While we wait, please share in the chat where you're tuning in from. I'm speaking from Lisbon, Portugal today. Hello, Nadia. Hi, everyone. The panelists will introduce themselves. I'm just going to explain a little bit the flow of our webinar. So we're going to have a presentation from our panelists, and then we'll have some questions in the end, a Q&A session. So you can use the Q&A button at any moment to ask questions, and we will get to all of those in the end. And now recording has already started, so I will pass it over to Gustavo.
Thank you, Fernanda. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to see some familiar names here and some new friends. Thank you so much for this great attendance and for your interest on working with the Pulitzer Center. We hope to give you a good amount of information today, but as Fernanda was saying, also feel free to start sending your questions through our Q&A. I can see your screen, Fernanda. I'm just going to start. As you know, we are doing today this event with our environmental unit. Is like a team of editors and data specialists that are working around everything environment in the Pulitzer Center. We started with the rainforest, but we quickly expanded to ocean and other environmental issues. Next one, please. Let me start talking about the mission of the Pulitzer Center. Last year, we updated. We have the chance of doing a big, like exercise within our organization to understand what are our strengths. Of course, a lot of people look at us as a donor for donor support. What we are known for is for having this game-changing resources that we're putting here, like grants and fellowships. But for us, it's not only about, as our president said, like signing the check. It's also like making sure that we get the best projects possible. That's what we calling here the breakthrough journalists. So we're really looking for ambitious projects that are making the difference, that are having impact. That's the criteria that we use for selecting the projects. I'm going to talk more about that soon. But also, there's a lot that goes on after the stories are published. Like we get really our engagement team to work with you, like with universities and schools to amplify your story. That's a big part of what Pulitzer is doing, is like putting education and outreach together with journalism. I'll talk more about this. Next one, please. So in this exercise that I was saying, like for defining our mission, our values with more clarity, we also define that we need to focus in some areas. We're talking today about climate and environment. This is the area where we are acting here, but we also have opportunities in these other areas: peace and conflict, global health, human rights, and the issue of AI and disinformation. So these are the main focus of the Pulitzer Center that we decided last year, and we're going to follow for the next year. So climate and environment is a big priority, and that's what we're going to talk here. Next one, please. So a constant question that we receive from many of you is like, do you support only newsrooms, or do you support only freelancers? We support both. The project is the strength of the story, the ambition of the project is central for our decision to support the project. But that can be projects from freelancers, writers, photographers, filmmakers, stringers, and can be a project from a newsroom. Although it's always a journalist who presents the project, he can represent a newsroom. What I'm saying here is like, it can be a staff member of a newsroom, and we're gonna support both freelancers and newsroom alike. Next one, please. So today we'll see that we're gonna talk about two different categories of support. There are grants. So Dati, my colleague, and Jessica will talk about like the ocean grants, the rainforest grants. But there's also the fellowships that Maddie and also Jessica will talk about. But let me just give you an overview of what are the grants. So the grants are always open in any of those 5 categories, 5 focus areas. You can send a proposal. So it's a rolling deadline. But the difference between grants and fellowships that the grants mostly cover costs of the reporting stories, your trips, your consultants, like some data analysts that you can add to your proposal, any costs that you have on developing a platform. These are what we call in the reporting costs. We get this question very often, like, can we submit for receiving a salary with the grants? It's very unusual. We know that the situation in journalism is changing. We have various outlets that depend on projects to survive. So in some cases, if we have like a project that's well described, have a budget that is well described, we can consider supporting the salary, like the stipend for the journalist and the reporter. But in the grants case, it's very unlikely. What we like to see is, like, even if you're a freelance, you have a support of a newsroom that's going to pay for the story, it's going to pay for your fee for doing that story, and we cover all the other costs. That's the most common format of these grants. So in all projects, we ask for these distribution plans, where it's going to be published, how are you going to achieve the audience that you would like to achieve. And collaboration, the use of data, innovative approaches is what we've seen as the ambitious project that I was talking about. So be creative, look for projects that really have some kind of a breakthrough. That's what we're looking for. We receive so many projects every year, and we have a cap of amount of projects that we can support every year. So we tend to support the most innovative ones. Next one. The fellowships, on the other hand, does support the salaries. So these fellowships, they pay for a year the salary of a journalist, either if it's a freelancer or a newsroom. We're going to support your stipend, your fee for an entire year. And these projects tend to be collaborative, either between a local outlet with a global outlet. There's a lot of focus that we are putting on doing cross-border, cross-continental collaborations. We just published this weekend a story with the Toronto Star, where there is a journalist from Cambodia and a journalist from Canada looking at the connection between Cambodia and Canada on the wildlife trade issue. So these kind of projects are very attractive to us. Also, if you get one of these fellowships, either the Rainforest Fellowship or the Ocean Fellowship, you get a lot of support of our data and research team. We have a data and research team that is very skillful, that does all the work with the mapping, how to analyze, like geospatial data. This kind of work is that you do with the data and research team. And of course, we've tried to find other partnerships to strengthen your project. We have partnerships with tech companies and satellite companies that also provide data for us. Next one. Just to give you, like showing what we're going to talk today, we're going to talk about these two networks. These are the networks that do fellowship for the environment. We have other networks outside of the environmental realm, but we have the Rainforest Investigations Network and the Ocean Reporting Network. These two networks do one year-long fellowships. Next one. I'm finishing here to pass to my colleagues. So in summary, what are our criteria for selecting projects on any topic, but here for the environment? We're really looking at underreported stories. So we very unlikely for us to support like the coverage of an election or the coverage of an event, like a UN conference or something like that, because everybody's going to be doing that. We know it's important. We're not saying it's not important, but we're looking at stories that are not receiving attention enough and needs to have like a systemic approach. Why this story is going to change something? Why do you think this story is going to be unique and review something like a supply chain that is going to be fully understood through your story? That's what we're looking at many of these fellowship projects, how to unveil the mining supply chain of nickel, or like the beef supply chain, and getting to know very in-depth, the details of that supply chain. The issue that I mentioned about the audience center approach is that you have to show us that that the audience that you're writing for, you're publishing for. What are the outlets that you're publishing? Who they're going to reach? Why do you think that they're the most important to publish your stories? Is there any other strategies that you can use to distribute your story? Are you doing like a WhatsApp version of your story, or maybe like a social media strategy? All those details help a lot us to select the stories. And who is telling the story is about like also showing that you have a diversity of sources, but also what kind of partnerships you can have your story. If you're doing like as an international stringer doing a story in another country, are you having a local reporting partner? That's very important for us to avoid parachuting journalists. Like if you have the chance of doing partnerships with local outlets, that's key for us. Final slide for me is just a recap of things that you should do while applying for grants and fellowships with us. Send examples of your pre-reporting. We want to see if you have the experience on the topic that you're talking about. If you have like also experience on doing investigations, you want to show that. Share your links, share your experience with us. Also, you should emphasize the distribution, like what we're talking about, who are the outlets, the formats that you are publishing, who are your partners locally. All those things help us to decide. Finally, some of the things that we know that when the project is not going to work, if you're doing over-promising things, we look at the budget and see the timeline and you see that we are promising too much, we say like this project is not feasible. So be realistic. It's better than over-promising. Any links and things that you send to us, just make sure that everything is okay. And the budget, although we have a very simple application form, the budget needs to be detailed. Don't send us just like, I need 5,000. That's not gonna make the case. We need like kind of a breakdown of your costs. It doesn't need to be a super spreadsheet. You can do like line by line and explain why you need that. It needs to make sense for us. The budget is an important part for us to decide. Well, I'll finish here, and we're going to get to the details. The first person that I'm going to invite to speak is Tati Saluling, my colleague at the Environmental Investigations Unit. She's going to talk about the rainforest grants. Thank you.
Thank you, Gustavo. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeti. I'm the manager of the Rainforest Reporting Grant, and also within the same team with Gustavo's and also other colleagues here. So I'm going to touch a little bit on the Rainforest Grant. So the reporting grant actually previously we called the Rainforest Journalism Fund, which started in 2018. I think some of you may be familiar with and already grantees. So just to follow what Gustavo has shared earlier about the criteria for proposals and also what we supported in the grant. But for here, let me start with a little bit of stories that we have produced through the grant. If you see the screens, we have all of these different project page with the stories that are in different languages. Because our primary focus is in 3 regions, the Amazon Congo Basin and Southeast Asia, the stories that are published by local outlets, and they are in various languages. Many of the stories are in Portuguese, Spanish, French, Basinese, Vietnamese, even, and other languages. So these stories are published mostly in local news and online prints, but we have many reports that has been shared through radio, TV programs, YouTube, and even podcast channels. So while we have supported the stories with strong distribution locally and regionally, there are also stories, incredible rainforest reporting that are being published in international channels. This definitely widened the reach of the audience beyond these 3 regions and exposing the audiences to the rainforest where many activities and operations take place. These multi-language and multi-pronged approaches should hopefully more than just raise awareness, but also influence consumer attitude and decision, as well as influence policy direction for forest management. Next. This, if you see at the screen, is one of the projects that I would like to just pinpoint a little bit. I wish I can share the many hundred projects that our partner journalists have produced. But this is a project that showcases the support of rainforest grants that we have in the past 5 years. This is a collaborative project of journalists based in Singapore and Cambodia who happen to be RGF grantees and RAIN fellows. And we call this a RGF and RAIN collaboration project. They investigated on a systemic illegal wildlife trade in Vietnam and Cambodia. So with their skills, their expertise, their networks and outlet strength, they produced 7 articles and they published them regionally and locally in English and Khmer. So because of the scope and relevance of this project to the Mekong region, the journalists in this project have been invited to many different talks and events to share their reports to university students, environmental NGOs and CSOs, even to Asian policy-making groups and academia as well. Later, my colleagues will speak about our fellowship networks. And this, while our Rainforest grant is typically very independent and short-term, we are trying to build this strong environmental reporting community where we have collaboration projects such as the grantees and also the fellows. Next. I would like to share a glimpse of what we've worked with for the past 5 years. Again, this is from what we have done with the Rainforest Journalism Fund, which now we are calling Rainforest Reporting Grant. If you've seen on the screen, this is the numbers that we had. We have supported 500 grantees from 51 countries, about 270 projects, producing 1,500 stories that are published in more than 500 outlets around the world. So these stories were produced by environmental journalists in the 3 regions and beyond. With this, we are very optimistic that with the new Rainforest Reporting Grant, we are looking for proposals that also as ambitious or more ambitious and innovative and also address critical rainforest issue today. We recently launched a call for proposal for Rainforest Reporting Grant that is especially focusing on transparency and governance in the forestry. So with these proposals, call for proposal, we seek pitches that expand the scope of our rainforest reporting in the 3 regions. We would like to see ideas that explore underreported and systemic issues affecting the region's tropical rainforest. This can range from impacts of extractive industry on local people and environmental, for example, poor forest governance, carbon market initiative, or even inspiring conservative initiative led by indigenous people or local community. So we encourage reporting driven by innovation, data, technology, and also collaboration. So please check out our grant page and the special call for more details on this. I'll share the link also so you can see what the special course is about. But we also have rolling deadlines for the general Rainforest Reporting Grant that I encourage you to take a look at. So for now, I'm passing to Mary to speak about the networks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daisy. And I'm happy to be here with you today. So my name is Madeleine. I'm the Africa editor of the Pulitzer Center, and I'm also part of the team, the environmental team in the Pulitzer Center. So I'm going to speak about the Rainforest Investigation Network. As Gustavo mentioned, is one of our fellowship in the environmental unit. So what is in the Rainforest Investigation Network is we promote cross-border collaboration and to report or to investigate on rainforest topic in the three main rainforest region of the world, which is the Congo Basin, the Southeast Asia, and the Amazon. So we are now in the 4th cohort. We just launched the 4th cohort of our fellowship. We have been working for 4 years now. So these 4 years, we have 48 year-long fellows. So you can see that there are a lot of journalists from around the world who have applied for a fellowship and got the chance to be part of the network. And in the network, we have been able to have more than 119 original work by our fellows. And these are stories published by local outlets, but also usually collaboration among fellows lead to publication in local or regional outlet and also with the international outlets to reach more diverse audience. So what do we have as added value in the Rainforest Investigation Network? Next slide, please. For all the journalists who join our network, we have a lot of support. One of the main support is the data support. We have a whole team in the environmental unit to support our fellow to get data, to know how to find the data or how to find maybe satellite images, to really have a strong story. We also have tutorial that we publish that we to provide to our fellow to be able to know how to use some tools, because we are really focusing on empowering the knowledge, the skills of the journalists who join the network, so they learn how to use map, how to use data, how to look for data, to research data, and how to analyze the data to do their investigation. And this webinar or tutorial are available to use and reuse by our fellows, and they can reach out to the data editor to have requests about specific research they are doing, or research unit to know how to investigate or how to look for supply chain, for example. Next slide. We have also the opportunity to receive mentorship. For example, I'm working as one of the editors in the team, which means we provide a lot of support to the journalists. You know that doing investigation, sometimes 1 year investigation is sometimes really challenging, and the journalists need support. Sometimes you need to have a lot of checking with the editor at the Rainforest Investigation Network, also with your editor to narrow down maybe the topic, or to know how to identify new leads for your investigation, or to know how to maybe plan your publication of your story. So part of the mentorship is to guide the fellow during the year so that it's possible for him to publish a strong story in the time that is required for the fellowship. We also have research guidance. You are investigating maybe once critical supply chain, you don't know how to start, or where to look for, or what is the contextual challenge for any specific area. The editor are also there to help to maybe to connect also with other journalists around the world, or other journalists in other parts of the world to know how to better investigate your story. We also enhance relation with the editor. You know that being in a fellowship and also being part of a newsroom is sometimes quite challenging to coordinate everything. So we are also here to help the journalists to have strong relation with the editor, so that the journalists can have a lot of time to work through the year to have a strong investigation. So I think I will let here, you can see some example of stories that have been published by the Rainforest Investigation Fellow in the Congo Basin, in the Southeast Asia, and in the Amazon. I will pass it on to my colleague, Jessica, for the next fellowship you have. Thank you.
Thanks, Maddie. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica. I'm the ocean editor, and I'm based in London. I'm going to talk about the Ocean Reporting Programme, which is the baby of the Pulitzer family. It launched last June. So the Pulitzer Center already had a number of ocean stories that it supported through a US grant called Connected Coastlines, but based on the model of collaborative cross-border journalism that the Rainforest Reporting Programme really pioneered, it saw a gap in the market to support ocean journalism, which is traditionally very expensive and underreported. So it works like Rainforest. The first category is the ocean reporting grants. So since we launched in June last year, we funded 16. Only 5 of those have published so far. A lot are in the pipeline, ready to publish soon. Some of the different topics that we've covered has been coral reef loss and restoration in Florida and Venezuela. We've sent a reporter to the Maldives to look at sea level rise and land reclamation. And we've got a photojournalist who's on the ground in South Africa at the moment, exploring how coastal communities are being affected by oil and gas exploration. So for me, it's really about having a really wide range of topics that we cover. So Gustavo's already mentioned the criteria that we're looking for as the center, but I just wanted to pick out a couple of examples of projects that really stood out at the application stage and as they moved through the reporting phases, and why. So the story on the left is 3 reporters, Tristan Taylor, Natalie Bertrams, and Ingrid Gikama. They did a multimedia project which charted the supply chain of octopus from Mauritania all the way through to the markets that consume it in Europe and Japan. And it first grabbed our interest because very little is ever reported from Mauritania, and we really liked the element of the supply chain story, tracing it through its journey. What was really interesting about this story was that it wasn't a particularly large budget. It was just travel costs mainly, but they had a really wide-reaching distribution model that was kind of hitting readers in all the key places that this octopus was being consumed. They ended up being published in Daily Maverick, El País, Deutsche Zeitung, De Groene Amsterdammer, and a couple of other places. So I just wanted to show that being ambitious doesn't necessarily mean expensive. It can just be thinking about the most reach in terms of people who can see your story and who have the power to make decisions about what they're consuming. Just below that is, I couldn't not mention the Outlaw Ocean Project, which is probably one of our most high-profile projects. This recently published a really amazing investigation over 4 years into use of forced labor on Chinese vessels and in seafood processing plants. In dozens of languages and outlets. You can see the numbers at the bottom. That's on another level of distribution. Not everything can be that ambitious. Another thing, the central story about deep sea mining. This was a really good example of a local regional story that tied into a global trend or debate. So Claire Feisler's story was about a deep sea mining experiment that happened off the coast of South Carolina. And about electric vehicle manufacturing that's happening more in the region, but that tied into what is happening at a global multilateral level, the debate about deep sea mining, and she really connected those dots. And the third story, Kanika's story, sorry, this was 2 reporters. So this was a story about a border clash, which had been told independently in stories in Pakistan and India, but this was the first story that brought them together and really showed both sides. Next slide, please, Fernanda. Last August, we launched the Ocean Reporting Network. So as Maddie and Gustavo already explained, this is the fellowship model where journalists get to spend a whole year on an investigative or an in-depth story. For us, adding the fact that this was an in-depth focus was really important because there are so few ocean reporters who have a lot of investigative experience. And ocean reporting is still a relatively new environmental reporting beat. So some topics lend themselves really well to being more an in-depth focus on a topic told through a series of stories rather than a traditional scoop. So this time and investment is really a rarity in journalism these days. My colleagues have already talked about the levels of support that they get, but just to give you an example of some of the training that we've specifically done for the Ocean Programme, it's been Global Fishing Watch, marine traffic. We've had kind of capacity buildings on the plastics treaty, deep sea mining, regional fisheries management organizations. So the idea is that even if these fellows are not reporting on that topic, they can still get wider exposure to the various topics that ocean reporting covers. So the 8 ocean fellows that got chosen for the first cohort is a really diverse mix of regions, languages, backgrounds, formats and experience. They're mostly doing fisheries. Someone is doing aquaculture, and then we've got pollution and desalination. And what's really nice to see is, as Maddie and Gustavo said, they're teaming up and sharing expertise. So we had Gideon was helping Regan with his story. Philip and Magali have teamed up because they're looking at shark fin trade. So you get lots of crossover between the fellows. And the aim is really to expand and diversify the global community of reporters, editors and outlets that can do ocean investigations and deeply reported stories in a network that's ever growing. Last slide, please, Fernanda. So the grants are open-ended. You can apply for those at any time. The fellowships, the Ocean Reporting Fellowships, we're just about to open applications for the second cohort. So you can see the dates there. And I'm sorry if it's a bit small, but there is a link. So that will be going live on the 2nd of April. And I've put some of the topics that we're really looking for. So as an umbrella, the main topics, that's what we tend to get a lot of applications from, but those smaller words are what we would really like to see more applications on because they're really interesting and they can be deeply reported, but they're very underreported. We'd also like to really see more applications from the Asia Pacific region. We don't tend to get a lot from there, particularly the Pacific Islands. So if you have any ideas, start thinking about them now. We do have an ocean reporting toolkit, which I'll share in the link afterwards. And this year we will be also having 2 extra fellowships that will cover transparency and governance. And I think ocean reporting, particularly things like fish subsidies, finance, deep sea mining, they really lend themselves to looking in depth at transparency and governance, and we would really encourage cross-border collaborations as well. So I'll share some links in the chat now, but that's everything from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for our editors for these amazing presentations. I remind everybody, please use the Q&A button to ask questions for our panelists, and we'll get to all of our questions. Starting with the first question coming from Hillary. They would like to apply for a fellowship, and their editor has agreed to provide a letter of interest. What specifically needs to be on this letter? Can you please answer, Jessica?
Yeah, I think that I'd like to see an understanding, a demonstration of an understanding of what the newsroom, what support the newsroom is going to provide. So an understanding that that would be, you know, some kind of guidance, that we would work together to produce a plan for publishing and the research, and that they can provide editing, and that, you know, there'll be collaboration when it comes to promoting the story and publishing and doing the outreach afterwards. I mean, I wouldn't expect, I think the story plans can be very flexible. So it's great to have an ideal of, I would like to support this journalist to do 3 stories on this topic over 6 months or whatever. But, you know, plans can change. But it would be good to show that the newsroom has an understanding of the topic and the project, and that they can support that, and that you can show that you've got a good working relationship.
Great, thank you. This question coming in for Dedi. Arnold would like to know, for freelance journalists, is it possible that the Pulitzer Center can help connect them to potential publishers, people that would like to commission their work?
Definitely. We do that too. When we look at proposals, we look at the many criteria, and one of them is the publishing outlets. So we have to start with your proposals. What is it, the outlet? So you have to do the first work, your homework first. And because you have to think how your stories is relevant with the outlets and the outlets audience as well. So the first homework has to start from you. And if we think that the proposal has potential and there is a better outlets or maybe a wider reach of outlets, we will suggest that to you for you to reach out to that outlet. And if we have connection, we can help you facilitate. But we definitely will ask you first to do the first homework of identifying the outlets and also what is the potential outlets that you can reach out. And if we have that connection, we can definitely help you to facilitate that.
Great, thanks. This one for Madeline, please. So Jean-Pierre, he would like to know, how long does it take to receive a response after submitting a pitch to the Pulitzer Center?
Thank you, Jean-Pierre, for the question. So when you submit a pitch, it can take up to 2 weeks or more, depending on how your pitch is strong enough. It's why we recommend, like you have seen in Gustavo presentation, we really recommend that you do a strong pre-reporting so that when you come with the pitch, your pitch is underreported story is strong enough, you have a strong distribution plan, so that when the editorial team will make the review, it will be easy for them to make a quick decision. So I will say that maybe wait for at least for about 1 month to receive a feedback from us, and we can have more questions if it's not clear, and come back and so on to make a final decision. So I would say for about 1 month to have an idea of your project.
Great, thanks. This question coming in for Gustavo, and Vizi would like to know if Pulitzer Center editors are available to chat and ask questions before journalists submit their applications.
Thank you. Well, in theory, yes. The best way of doing this is if we meet at some event, or, you know, or like a webinar like that, and we can answer questions directly. So this is very common. We go to several of these like conferences, local and global. For example, I'll be in the Investigative Journalists Conference of Brazil. We were in the African Investigative Journalists Conference. We are now going to some ocean conferences. So if we meet potential grantees like you, and we are really happy to sit down, have a coffee, explain the opportunities, but we will never be able to kind of review your proposal before submitting. That would not be ethical. sometimes we find time, you know, like for doing a call, but it's very unusual that we spend time with every single candidate before they apply. What usually happens is that we get an email from you, and you ask like, well, I have this proposal about health in I don't know, Malawi. What should be my proposal sent to? Which opportunity should I aim? And then we will answer, say like, well, that looks like a kind of a global health proposal, so send to this opportunity. That kind of orientation we are more than happy to do. What we cannot do is really like advising too much, because there's an issue of time. Just to give you an idea, we receive around 2,000 proposals per year. It's more or less that. I think it's like a little bit more over 1,000, and sometimes we get up to 2,000, and we have to select up to 10%, a little bit more of this 2,000. So it's tough.
Back to Madeline. Sarushi would like to know if the Rainforest Fellowship is open to stories from Sri Lanka. They know that it doesn't fall into the specific rainforest regions, but is there a way for journalists from that specific country to collaborate in RIN?
Okay, thank you for the question. So I would say that we are focusing on the 3 main rainforest region, but sometimes you can see a project which starts in Congo Basin, for example, but has connection in other countries. So we really encourage the journalists to look beyond the region and see connection between the rainforest country and other country. If, for example, you are based in Sri Lanka and you know that there is a trade involving one rainforest country and go to Sri Lanka or in another country, you can do more research to see if you have something strong as investigative project to do with that. You can also be based in Sri Lanka and you have a topic which is relevant which is focused on one specific rainforest area, and you have maybe expertise, you have been there, you have you have maybe connection there, you have journalists there that you can partner with, maybe you have the expertise in data and other kind of supply chain investigation. You can easily connect with some journalists based there to do your collaborative investigation. So it's not about just maybe journalists from
I think.
just
okay. You're back, Maddie.
yes. Oh, sorry. Oops. Thanks.
No. We got everything about collaborating with other journalists. If I can add something, it is really tough for us to expand the regional scope of RIN, because that's the focus of the project. As Madeline said, we've been working with these connections. If you look at the most recent cohort of RIN that we announced, we'll see there's 2 journalists working in Kenya. So Kenya, for like all technical aspects, is not part of the Congo Basin, but they're doing a lot of the reporting connected to the Congo Basin. That explains. We have another fellow working from Nigeria, same case, so if you have like a scope that is kind of a regional, let's say Central Africa or parts of Africa or parts of South America, and then connects that regionality with the main tropical rainforest, that would work for us. For the rainforest grants, we're starting to look at even more to this connection. So I would say for a project in Sri Lanka, I would go for the reporting grants at this point, because we're having more flexibility there. A classical case, I'm talking a little bit of bias because I'm based in this region, I'm based here in Brazil, is that we know, for example, the southern part of Brazil or the central part of South America, which are not rainforests, they're totally connected because of climate change, hydrological cycles with the forests. So a story that makes this point of the connection between ecosystems is something that we are looking at as well. So again, if you're considering applying from Sri Lanka, from Paraguay, from Central America, I would go for the reporting grants.
Thank you, Madeline and Gustavo. This one is coming for Jessica, and Ferdinand would like to know if you're a reporter that hasn't really covered ocean, but you're interested in the topic and you would like to get started, can you still apply for the Ocean Fellowship and for ocean grants?
Yeah, for sure. We don't want to discourage anybody. I think there's so few experts in this area. I think there's about 5 people worldwide who could say that they had amazing investigative and ocean reporting experience. And, you know, many of the, you know, just because you haven't got a background reporting on that topic doesn't mean that you can't learn about it. That's, you know, I wasn't an expert in this until about 5 or 6 years ago. I'm still not an expert, but you can easily learn the topic as long as you've got the core journalistic skills, then by all means apply. And we would really encourage that. I think, especially if you've been doing financial journalism, for example, you could really lend your expertise to looking at some of the supply chain and finance side of it. I just wanted to respond to just 2 points as well that for the questions for Maddie and Gustavo, just about that, how long does it take to get an answer? Something that we see quite frequently is applications for a grant where a journalist says, I'm going somewhere in a week and I need the money now. We can't move that quickly, and we think that that is a bit of a it's not the most organized way to approach a project, I suppose, if it feels like we're a bit of an afterthought where you come to us just because maybe you want the money and you're going to do the story anyway. We really like to work with journalists from the start of the project when you have the idea and you have the outlet, and we have a lot of time to plan, because you will get an answer within 2 or 3 weeks, but then there's the whole contract stage can take a while as well. So we don't like to rush that part of it. So please think of us coming to us as early as you can in the process. And the other thing about, if you're not sure about which category it fits into, there is a global reporting grant category. So if you aren't sure about the project, then you can apply under that. And when we have our editorial review meeting, you know, we will decide which project it fits under if you're not sure. So don't let it put you off if you're not sure which category it falls into.
Great, thank you. The next question is also for you, Jessica. Jonathan would like to know, considering that the Ocean Fellowship is 12 months, should journalists focus on a single story that they're going to report on and follow, or can they have other subjects? How would that play out?
That's a really good question, and that's something that I do get asked a lot when I meet journalists at conferences is, I have this really good story idea, should I apply for a grant or a fellowship? I think the grants are clear cut. This is, I want to go to a place and report about one story, and maybe do it for a few different outlets, and then I'm done. Whereas the fellowship is, I want to follow a single story over the course of a year. It's not meant to be beat reporting where you work for an outlet and you just say, I'm going to do ocean stories about anything for the next 12 months. It has to be a story that you can follow over, you know, 2 or 3 stories or 5 or 6 stories is the case with some of our fellows. I would say go and have a look at the current cohort of Ocean Fellows and see what their stories are. But we would like to focus on one story, or in particular, not just a load of different topics that happen to be about the ocean. And I would say, please apply with a story in particular, not just a general topic, because that's what we saw a lot of applications in the last round of Ocean Reporting Network fellowships.
Great, thanks. This one is coming for Dedi. Thomas is asking a little bit about the formats that we support. So do we support documentary films, or do we focus more on written stories? What are the different formats that journalists can explore in the grants?
Well, we take everything. So it's not only strictly for written. We love many different proposals, and also pitches for documentary, even for radio, even for podcast. The number one that we are looking for is the merit of the proposal itself. What is the story is about? I think Gustavo has mentioned about what we are looking for. What is the do's, the don'ts? But very, very important is, number one is, what is the content of your proposal? What is it that you are trying to tell? And then how you will tell it. Then you have to intrigue us with how that particular stories will be packaged in the format that you suggested for us. So, and which outlet will be better for that? Because if you are doing a narrative and then you are putting it in different podcasts, maybe that's not the best way. So again, we take everything. So it's not only strictly for written. We know there are so many different ways people and audience get their information. So again, everything.
Thank you. Next question is coming for the diversity of outlets. This one for Gustavo. Do we prioritize more a global distribution or a local distribution? What are we looking for in terms of distribution?
So for us, it's always interesting to think about this mix of outlets. We really like proposals that comes with the mix of local and global, like connecting, like a local story with a global outlet. But it's not always possible, and we understand that. So we respect the diversity of outlets. That's what I see when we are reviewing the proposals, is that when you have a local outlet that has reach, for example, as Betty was saying, like a local radio that might be super important in a country or in a forest area in the Amazon or the Congo Basin, we will understand that and we'll support that. And then we can, or sometimes we propose, like, would you be able, or would you be open for us to present you to a international outlet, and then we transform your story into a kind of a different format and see if that we can expand or amplify the reach of your story. So that's where we try to help. But the diversity of outlets, as asked, is, I can tell you, is really, really respected. We both see at the local level the importance and see also big outlets as important. If we can combine both, great. If not, we're gonna try to understand what is the reach of the outlet we are working on, how the audiences are strategic, and that will count on our selection.
Daddy, this next question is for you. It's coming from Beiming, and they would like to understand how to include a partner in the form. So they said that in the application form, the main information is collected only from one applicant, from personal details to the CV. So what is the best way to present a partnership with a local reporting partner in the submission?
Definitely you can, and you can include as many as you want. Of course, we need one applicant. It's part of our system. We cannot have like 10 different partners there. I think we need, that's why when you are pitching the proposal, it has to be someone that knows the proposal very well and be the lead applicants. That's what we call it. And you can include the name of your partners in the application itself. There is a section there when it will ask who will you work with, who you will partner with, and then you have to include the partners that you have and what are the roles of that specific partners. Is it a photographer? Is it a data analyst? Or is the person will be your local reporting partners? And this, for us, it is very important to see this, to know that you are really prepared and you already have done your pre-reporting and how you plan to go about your project. And especially with the local partners, sometimes you are in the stage when you are still feeling who are the partners that we want to reach out to. You can mention, I think it's fine to do that, but at least we need to know that you have done the scope. Sometimes we have a proposal that are very ambitious at the local level, but doesn't know how to go about it. So again, don't worry about it. To only have one person included in the application itself, there's a lot of there is one section where you can do that, and you can even upload the CV of your partners if you already have.
Great, thanks. I'm trying to organize some questions in bulk so we can get to all of them. A lot of people are asking if this webinar is recorded and if it will be sent out. Yes, it will very soon. I'll email you all with the recording and with some relevant links about the grants, about everything that we covered here. There's also a lot of people asking about languages. So we accept applications in 5 different languages. Here we have a good representation. Maddie takes the French submissions, Dedi, Bahasa Indonesia, Gustavo Portuguese. So please feel free, even work samples that are in other languages, please submit them to us. There's another question coming for Dedi, and it's asking about the Rainforest reporting grants. If there's an estimate of how many grants get accepted per year.
Oh, this is tricky. We are, I think I mentioned very, very briefly before, we used to be the Rainforest Journalism Fund, and we are now transitioning into Rainforest Reporting Grant. And this Rainforest Reporting Grant is a little bit smaller in scope, so we cannot really tell you how many per year that we have. But definitely we have a smaller number of proposals than last time. And for us, the sooner that we have the quota of funding that we have, then that's what we call it finished by the year. So we do not, it's very difficult to say how many proposals that we have per year, because every proposal is different in budget. And we also have a category where we work within the budget realm. So again, I cannot really say how many per year, but I encourage everyone to submit as soon as you can. And even if we don't have it within, or maybe if we are full within Rainforest Reporting Grant, there might be another initiative that will be able to support that. So again, it is open all year long, but don't wait. If you have some ideas, just submit your proposal.
Great, thanks. Over to Jessica. What are the key elements you look for in an ocean proposal for a grant? And what are the steps after submitting a proposal? If it's rejected, can the applicants revise the proposal and submit again?
Good question. I can answer the first. I might need some help with the second. What do I look for? So I think Gustavo had the criteria about, is it a local issue which points to wider systemic global patterns? Definitely that one. I would say, is it an underreported topic? I think 60% of the proposals that we get are fisheries related. A lot of that is about illegal fishing, which is very interesting, but is happening in all parts of the world. And we get proposals which, you know, it's a local reporter who wants to profile their story about illegal fishing in their country, which is not necessarily a story. So is it something that is underreported or new? Or even if it's not new, are you telling it from a different angle? Why are you uniquely placed to be able to tell this story? I guess something that is ambitious, like I mentioned with the distribution model, and just going back to what Gustavo said as well, there's distribution models of like local versus global, but there's also thinking about different audiences. So do you have a niche scientific journal, which if you publish a story in there, it's going to be talked about among academics and policymakers, but also is in the main pages of a Sunday newspaper. So it's worth thinking about different audiences as well as different levels of publishing. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, so thinking about the audiences, thinking about, is it, you know, does it tie into global issues? Is it underreported or new? Also, I suppose thinking about after the story's been published, what sort of impact you might have or outreach you might do to kind of amplify that story and keep it alive. To the second point, can you remind me what the question was again? Yes. So we don't have time to go back and individually give feedback on every proposal, because somebody just asked how many proposals we receive, and it is a lot. We don't have time to go back for every single one. If it's rejected, but we feel like there's potential for something further, we may come back to you separately and say, it hasn't worked this time, but we were impressed with your work and this was why. If you want to apply again, this is what you might need to do. But that would be quite rare. But I might defer to Gustavo and Detti on that one, as they probably have a lot more experience than me.
Yeah, well, on that second point, we do have a lot of flexibility, and we are trying to be the most transparent and direct. So if we say to you, like, well, we will not accept this proposal this time, we try to put some kind of feedback, because we have received several proposals on the same topic. So no way we're gonna accept your proposal in the short term. But if there's any chance, it happens sometimes. I would say, like, if you find another, you know, like another outlet, we might reconsider your proposal, or review your budget, and we're gonna reconsider your proposal. So this kind of conversations happen every now and then, but we try to be very transparent. And when it's not for the time for that proposal, we'll try to say that it's not going to happen this year. Maybe that's something for an opportunity that's going to open just by the end of the year. That's better for a fellowship. That's better for a grant. We try to give some useful feedback. That's how it works.
Thank you. This one back to Gustavo. Is it possible to submit 2 proposals at the same time?
Yes, totally. You can submit proposals at the same time, but you know, like that not necessarily will make you more successful. It might count against you because we're going to just look at like, well, which one is the priority for this person? It has to be really clear 2 proposals. It happened before, and sometimes we select one. It's very unlikely that we're going to select the 2 at the same time. I don't remember any time that we approved more than 1 proposal for the same person. And even from the same outlet, we try to, you know, like to distribute a little bit better. There's an issue of like, we want to see 1 proposal finish, make sure that it's successful before jumping into another one. And that is something that I forgot to mention, but I always tell this when I meet someone who is interested in working with the Pulitzer Center. Before joining as an editor, I was a grantee as well, did I think 3 grants with the Pulitzer Center. And what is great about this organization is that unlikely other NGOs is not that you're going to send us a proposal and you're going to say like, well, you have your chance, see you in 5 years. It's quite the contrary. Like if you send us like maybe a smaller proposal in the beginning and you are successful, we will say, wow, this person do really good work. Maybe we can receive another proposal. We're going to invest more and more. So there's like grantees that have done a dozen proposals with us, and there's no problem with that. We try to actually to foster some careers with that system. We really support over the years the same people and try to diversify, but keep growing the support to that specific person or the outlet. Jessica, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, just after the last round of Ocean Reporting Network fellowship applications, we did follow up with a lot of people who had great ideas for projects that didn't work for a fellowship, but that would work for an individual grant. And we've kind of followed up. So they've had an opportunity to do a different type of reporting. So we do try our best to follow up where we can.
Thank you so much. I believe we got to all of the questions in our Q&A button, and now I invite the editors for final remarks, anything you'd like to share with our audience, starting with Eddie, please.
Wow, okay. Number 1, we have a special call, Rainforest Reporting Grant. I think is closing in a couple of weeks in April. This is focusing on transparency and governance, so please check that out. And also maybe just one final kind of tips on a successful proposal is please do your homework. I think Maddie mentioned this, indicated this specifically, that we also value the pre-reporting aspect of your proposal, that you have done your homework, you've seen what the topics, why they're important, what has been reported. Don't do the same topic, make it unique, make it yours, and why this is important to tell the stories. I think for us, we always look for it. Gustavo said we received thousands of proposals. There are so many, so make it unique and make it yours, and believe in your proposals. That's what I have to say. And good luck.
Great, Maddie, over to you.
Okay, so what I will mention is that for those who missed the call for application for the actual Rainforest Investigation Network, be there, like follow up follow our social media and our activities. The next call will be I think on October or November at the end of this year. So be in touch. Don't miss the next call for application if you are interested to join the Rainforest Investigation Network and get all the support we have there. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you, Jessica.
Thank you. Yeah, just please help us spread the word about the ocean reporting grants and fellowships, and help us make ocean reporting as successful as the Pulitzer Center has done with rainforests.
And Gustavo, please.
Yeah, no, first, thank you all for being here. It's great to see a great attendance. I want to thank also my friends, editors here presenting. I think my message to you is like really work well in your partnerships. We are pretty much aware of the difficulties of being a freelance journalist. I believe most of you here my work as freelance and doing stories for several newsrooms. So having these careful conversations with editors, you know, like we really expect and try to make the newsrooms to get engaged. And we're not talking only about the money, although the money is important for them to recognize the value of your work and paying for your stories. This is part of the story, but many of the stories here are involve some kind of risk, you know, like we need someone, we would love to take care of all of our grantees, but we need someone to take care of you when you're doing this risk reporting on the field. So if you're doing a story, an ambitious story that includes field trips to some of the rainforest areas that might be a little bit risky, or even like jumping in a fishing boat, which is definitely risky. So make sure that the newsroom supports you, that they do the risk assessment. So the issue of partnership with the newsroom is really important. Partnership with the other journalists from other countries is really important as well. Counting with us to give you some tips on how to establish these partnerships. But the partnerships are really important, needs to be really transparent on who is doing what. We want to see this ecosystem of collaborations growing, and these partnerships are key. So count with us. So we're waiting for your proposals. Thank you.
Nice. That's a great way to end. Thank you so much to our editors, and thank you so much for everybody who attended this webinar. It took 1 hour in their day to listen to us. We look forward to reading your proposals for both grants and fellowships, and we will be in touch via email. Thank you very much. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Fernanda.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Ciao.